That's fine, thank you.
Thank you. As a servant to the people of Queensland and Australia, I always treat the people with respect and care, and that compels me to base statements on facts and solid empirical evidence. In cross-examination of the CSIRO in 2017, the CSIRO admitted that today's temperatures are not unprecedented. Yet Senator Cormann relies broadly and without specifics on the UN's discredited Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. He states 2 page numbers on which the UN IPCC makes claims without providing empirical scientific data within a scientific framework that proves causation. Useless. Senator Cormann gives us no proof of human carbon dioxide causing climate variability. None, nil, zip. He and his Liberal Nats hide behind the UN smokescreen. Fortunately, Madam Acting Deputy President, I have the antidote: facts. Cold, hard facts and data. Let me share just some. Each of the UN IPCC's 5 reports to media and governments is based on a lie. It's a litany of lies. 1990 was based on a false claim that reversed the scientists' conclusions that there was no evidence of global warming and none due to human carbon dioxide. 1995 was more brazen. It was based on one scientist, Ben Santa, reversing the scientist's own report. The original 1995 reports on the science said, while some of the pattern base discussed here have claimed detection of a significant climate change, no study to date has positively attributed all or part of climate change observed to man-made causes. None. Yet without consulting the lead authors, one of the chapter's lead authors, Ben Santa, reportedly falsified comments in Chapter 8 by submitting this comment, quote, "The body of statistical evidence in Chapter 8, when examined in the context of our physical understanding of the climate system, now points to a discernible human influence on the global climate." A lie. 2001, the next report from the UN, was based on the infamous hockey stick temperature graph, whose authors refused to release their data to public scrutiny. That should have meant it was discarded. Instead, it was lionised by the UN and by Al Gore and entrenched in people's minds and headlines. In 2007, the UN based its report on unvalidated and erroneous computer models proven hopelessly wrong. In 2014, the report that Senator Cormann has handed as reference to us, the UN's report was based on unvalidated and erroneous computer models proven hopelessly wrong. In its context, the 2014 report's sole chapter claiming warming, that's Chapter 10, in its opening sentence misrepresents reality by implying warming from 1951 to 2010. Similarly, on page 878, both are false. From 1958 to 1975, global atmospheric temperatures cooled. 1976 saw a sudden small rise due to the entirely natural Great Pacific climate shift over 1 year, followed through to 1995-1998 by a very modest warming trend. At the time of the report in 2015, from 1995-98, temperature had been flat, with every year since 1998 being cooler than in 1998. In 57 years of atmospheric temperature measurements, temperatures have shown no warming or been cooling for 34 years. That's 64% of the time. That's 60% of the time with no warming. At the time of the report in 2013-14, the trend was 16 years of ongoing lack of warming despite ever-rising human carbon dioxide output due largely to China and India. Yet there was no warming trend, and that continues. The report identifies no plausible logical scientific reasoning for attributing modest cyclical warming to carbon dioxide from human activity. That contradicts empirical scientific evidence and factors needed to claim causal relationships. The report contains no empirical scientific evidence and no logical scientific reasoning for claiming that human carbon dioxide caused warming. It fails to identify any difference between current temperature variability and past temperature variability. Comparisons reveal both previous cycles are similar in modest extent and rate of warming and cyclical stasis after each warming, just a natural cooling warming. In its latest report in 2014, confidence in UN IPCC projections was raised arbitrarily to 95%. That implies statistical validity, yet the 95% is not statistically derived, it's politically fabricated, just pulled out of the air. To paraphrase and build on Canadian statistician Ross McKittrick, in previous years, the UN IPCC was wrong about the Arctic, wrong about the Antarctic, wrong about the tropical troposphere, wrong about atmospheric temperatures, wrong about the ground-based surface temperature, wrong about ocean temperatures, wrong about hurricanes, wrong about sea levels, wrong about the Himalayas, wrong about sensitivity, clueless on clouds and useless on regional trends. And on that basis, it raised its confidence to 95%. Canadian statistician Steve McIntyre's early investigation of the UN's 2014 report reveals that the UN has cooked the figures to falsely show that although there has been a lack of warming for 16 or 17 years at the time, the temperatures at the time fall within the range of its early predictions. They did not. Steve McIntyre said, quote, "Earlier UN temperature projections have been shifted downwards relative to observations so that the observations are now within the earlier projection." The UN report tried to misleadingly hide the fact that, contrary to UN projections, ground-based temperatures had not risen since its second report in 1995. If the UN IPCC, that Senator Cormann relies upon, were a corporation, an accountant or financial prospectus, it would be jailed. A critique of the report by the internationally acclaimed independent climate scientists, the Non-Governmental International Panel on Climate Change, found that the UN has retreated on at least 11 alarmist claims in prior reports. The new summary for policymakers in 2014 had at least 13 misleading or false statements, and another 11 statements are phrased to mislead the readers or misrepresent important aspects of the science. American climatologist Dr. Judith Curry is professor and chair of the Georgia Institute of Technology School of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences. Reportedly, she's a scientist who initially believed that humans cause global warming. She now publicly questions that. Here are her views on the report that Senator Cormann and the wet libs rely on. Diagnosis of the UN, paradigm paralysis caused by motivated reasoning, oversimplification and consensus seeking, worsened and made permanent by a vicious positive feedback effect at the climate science policy interface. Increasing levels of shrillness on both sides of the political debate, with the warm side, that's the UN, steeped in moral panic and hyperbole. Quote again, after several decades and expenditures in the bazillions, the IPCC still has not provided a convincing argument for how much warming in the 20th century has been caused by humans. The UN IPCC contradicts empirical scientific evidence because it relies on projections from computerized numerical models whose core assumptions contradict nature and reality. The discrepancy, as Judith Curry says, between observational and climate model-based estimates of climate sensitivity is substantial and of significant importance to policymakers. But that's what the Liberals' policy is based on. And here's the trick. Instead of science, they use language. Word counts done on their chapter shows 85 pages. In 85 pages, the word model appears 677 times. The word simul, as part of simulations and simulated, appears 370 times. The word certain appears 232 times, even though there's nothing certain. The word likely appears 172 times. The word confidence appears 127 times. The word may appears 79 times. The word expect appears 63 times. It's just a litany of propaganda. The repetition of key words is propaganda to conjure unfounded feelings of confidence and likelihood, and it fools Senator Cormann. Yet there is complete lack of empirical scientific evidence that human carbon dioxide causes climate change and needs to be cut. In the real world of science, propaganda is not science. In the politicised and ideological world of the UN and the Liberal Party, though, it is a replacement for science. In the Liberal Party, it is a substitute for science and replaces integrity, and the gnats meekly tag along. Senator Cormann has revealed the government's lack of understanding of climate and lack of scientific evidence for its ruinous climate policies and imposts on the people. Senator Cormann validates our conclusions and reinforces our determination to expose the gutless, wet Liberals afraid of confronting the facts and afraid of confronting the Greens, with the cowed Nationals meekly tagging along. Senator Cormann and the government have failed to provide any scientific basis for their climate position. I will return in coming months to discuss the State of the Climate report by the BOM and the CSIRO in 2018. I'm going to have a lot of fun in the next 4 months. We will free this country and every Australian from the clutches of ignorance and dishonesty. We will restore people's right and save families and employers cash. Families know how to use this cash better. This issue goes to the heart of Australian governance. This parliament should be ashamed. Senator Hanson and I will delight in restoring scientific integrity and restoring freedom. And I seek leave, Mr. Acting Deputy President, to continue my remarks.
Thank you, Senator.